Level 1. $500. A credit card. Nothing else. You put gas on it because payday's 4 days out and the tank's on empty. You tell yourself you'll pay it off the second the check hits. You don't, not fully, because rent hits the same day and rent always wins. You carry a balance for the first time in your life and it feels like nothing. $500 doesn't sound like debt, it sounds like a number you'll forget by summer. Your friend asks if you want to split a trip to the coast. You say maybe, meaning no, meaning you already know what's in your account and it isn't room for maybe. You don't tell him why, you just say you're busy that weekend. The minimum payment is $25. You pay it religiously, on time, and watch the balance barely move. $18 of it eaten by interest before it even touches what you owe. You do this for 4 months straight before you understand what's happening. You're not paying down $500, you're paying a company $18 a month to let you keep owing them $500. Nobody explains this to you. You just notice, slowly, that the number never gets smaller no matter how good you are about it. You start checking the balance every few days, not out of discipline, just dread. The same screen, the same number, refusing to move. $500 isn't a debt, it's your first lesson in how debt is built to outlast your good intentions. Level 2. $2,000. It happened fast. A transmission, a security deposit, a friend's wedding you couldn't say no to. 3 cards now spread thin, each one carrying just enough to feel manageable alone and unbearable together. You do the math on a Sunday night at the kitchen table, 3 statements fanned out, a calculator glowing beside a cold cup of coffee. The total interest across all 3, if you only pay minimums, is more than you paid for your car. You stare at that number for a long time. You open a 4th card, not because you want to, because a 0% intro offer promises 15 months of breathing room, and breathing room is the only thing you're shopping for anymore. You move the highest balance over. The relief lasts exactly as long as it takes to notice the transfer fee, 3%, quietly added to the very balance you were trying to shrink. Your coworker mentions he just paid off his card completely. You say nice and mean it, and also feel something curdle a little in your chest, something you don't have a name for yet. You skip a haircut, you skip the dentist appointment that was just a cleaning, just routine, because $140 today matters more than a cavity that might not exist yet. You tell yourself it's temporary. $2,000 is the number where debt stops being an event and starts being a weather system, something you now live inside instead of something that happened to you once. Level 3. $8,000. This is where debt stops being cards and starts being a spreadsheet. You build one on a Tuesday night. Minimum payments, interest rates, due dates, color-coded because color coding feels like control even when it isn't. The math says if you pay only minimums, one of these cards won't be paid off until you're 41. You are 27 now. You do the subtraction twice to make sure you read it right. You did. You take a second job, a Saturday shift at a warehouse, 6 hours of scanning boxes for $94 after taxes, and you put every dollar of it against the card with the highest rate. Your friends invite you to a birthday dinner at a restaurant with cloth napkins. You order water and an appetizer and split it as your entree, and you laugh along like it's a choice, like you're just not that hungry tonight. Nobody asks why you didn't order anything real. You wouldn't know what to say if they did. Your mother calls and asks how you're doing, and you say fine, because the alternative is a conversation you don't have the energy to survive twice, once in your head and once out loud. You lie in bed some nights doing the math again, unprompted, the numbers just running on a loop you didn't ask to start. $8,000 isn't a number anymore. It's a second job you never applied for, working nights and weekends inside your own skull. Level 4. $20,000. The debt has a name now. Private student loan, refinanced twice. Still there, still growing in the months you couldn't make the full payment and only made the minimum instead. You get calls from unfamiliar numbers with familiar area codes, a servicer wanting to talk about your account and you let it ring out because talking about it doesn't change what's in it. You apply for an apartment and get denied. Not because your income's too low, because your debt-to-income ratio doesn't clear their threshold, a number you didn't know existed until it decided something about your life for you. You find a place that doesn't check as closely and pay $150 more a month for the privilege of being someone whose file doesn't get scrutinized. You do the math on that too. $1,800 a year just for being seen as risky, on top of everything else you're already carrying. A friend's engaged now. She asks you to be in the wedding. The dress alone is $280 you don't have, plus travel, plus a shower gift, plus a bachelorette weekend you'll say yes to because saying no to that particular ask feels like a different kind of debt, one you're not willing to go into. You put it on a card. Of course you put it on a card. At $20,000, there's no clean money left to draw from, just a rotation of which card absorbs which emergency this month. You stop opening the banking app first thing in the morning. You wait until after coffee now. Small mercy. You'll take it. Level 5. $45,000. Somewhere in here, the debt stopped being about any one bad decision and became about the years. You didn't do one wrong thing. You did 400 small, ordinary things while an economy quietly made each one cost more than it should have. You consolidate, finally. One loan instead of 6, a lower rate, a single due date, a plan on paper that makes sense if nothing else goes wrong. Something else goes wrong. It's a filling this time, then a root canal you didn't budget for because who budgets for a root canal? And it goes on the one card you swore you'd never touch again. Your partner brings up the number one night, gently, not accusing, just worried, and you feel your whole body go defensive before they finish the sentence. You apologize for snapping. You don't apologize for the debt because somewhere along the way you stopped believing an apology was owed for simply trying to survive an expensive life. You start a spreadsheet again, version 4, and this time you add a column you've never added before. Hope, a rough date, 3 years out when the debt might actually be gone. You don't believe the date. You write it anyway because writing it down is the only thing standing between you and giving up on this ever-ending. Level 6. $90,000. You've stopped telling people the real number. Not out of shame exactly, out of exhaustion at the look that crosses their face when they hear it, the quick recalculation of who you are that happens behind their eyes. You make good money now, better than you ever have, and people assume good money means no debt, and you let them assume it because correcting them takes more energy than the assumption costs you. You get a bonus at work, $3,000, and for one whole day you let yourself imagine spending it on something that isn't a payment. You don't. You put it against the loan with the highest balance and feel the strange, hollow satisfaction of watching a large number become a slightly smaller large number. Your best friend buys a house. You go to the housewarming and admire the granite counters and mean it, and also do a private, involuntary calculation of how many years that kitchen would cost you in payments instead of a mortgage. You catch yourself doing this now, converting every nice thing you see into debt service math, uninvited, automatic. $90,000 doesn't feel like a number anymore. It feels like a second person living in your house, eating from your income before you get to, every single month, without fail, without ever once saying thank you for being fed. Level 7. $150,000. This is the level where the debt starts outliving relationships. A serious one ends, in part because of it, though nobody says that plainly in the moment. They say, we want different things. And one of the different things is a life where every conversation about the future doesn't quietly detour into a conversation about what you owe. You don't blame them. Some nights you don't blame yourself either, which feels like its own small, strange victory. You get a raise that should feel like triumph, and instead feels like a larger number being immediately absorbed by a system that was already waiting for it. Hungry, patient, exactly sized to consume whatever you bring it. You look up your net worth for the first time in years, a negative number so large it's almost abstract, more concept than reality, and you close the tab instead of sitting with it. A cousin asks for advice about taking out student loans for a graduate program. You want to tell them everything. You tell them almost nothing, because the real answer, the true shape of what 15 years of debt does to a person, doesn't fit in a text message, and you're not sure they're ready to hear it from someone still inside it. Level 8. $250,000. The debt has outlasted 2 jobs, 1 relationship, and every version of the plan you've made to kill it. You've made peace with a strange fact. You may die still owing money. And this thought, which should terrify you, mostly just sits there now, familiar, background noise, weather you've learned to dress for. You help a younger coworker understand their first paycheck deductions, patient, generous, genuinely kind, and they have no idea the man teaching them about interest rates carries $250,000 of it himself, silently, invisibly. A fact that would change how they see you if they knew, so you don't offer it. You take a trip you can't really afford, a real one, somewhere you've wanted to go since you were 20, and for 8 days you don't check a single balance, and it's the most rested you felt in a decade. And you know exactly what it will cost when you land, and you go anyway, because at this depth, the calculation changes. Some things are worth financing that used to feel unthinkable to finance, because the alternative is a life entirely deferred, and you're done deferring all of it. Level 9, $400,000. It's a mortgage now, mostly. The debt reshaped into something the world calls responsible instead of reckless, though it's the same math it always was, just wearing a nicer name. You own something. The bank owns more of it than you do, for now, for years. But your name is on the deed, and that changes something in how people talk to you. How a loan officer's tone shifts when you walk in. How a neighbor waves differently than strangers used to look at you at $8,000. You still do the math some nights, old habit, comparing where you are to where the spreadsheet from version 4 said you'd be, and you're behind that old hopeful date, further behind than you want to admit, and you sit with that instead of panicking because panic stopped being useful somewhere around level 6. Your kid asks what a mortgage is, you give them the honest answer instead of the simple one. It's a debt you choose, because the alternative, renting forever, is also a debt, just one that never turns into anything you keep. Level 10. $500,000. Somewhere past this number, debt stops being a personal failure and becomes a fact of the system you live inside, the same way weather is a fact, the same way traffic is a fact. You look back at the 27-year-old at the kitchen table with 3 maxed cards and a calculator, certain he'd done something uniquely wrong to end up there, and you want to tell him what took you 2 decades to learn. Nobody warned you because almost everybody around you was carrying some version of this too, quietly, alone, assuming they were the only one. The debt didn't come from one bad year. It came from an economy that priced healthcare, housing, and education like luxuries, and then acted surprised when ordinary people financed their ordinary lives. You paid every bill, you skipped every haircut, you did the math at every kitchen table for 20 years. And somewhere in there, without a ceremony, without anyone telling you, you stopped being someone drowning in debt and became someone who simply, quietly, carries it. The way people carry weather, the way people carry traffic, the way people carry a life that was never going to be free, only survivable. One payment, one year, one honest number at a time.